Hello, welcome to Mind Body Speech. Here we talk about everything about speech therapy and occupational therapy. My name is Dr. Ella Wu. I'm the occupational therapist here at Speech for Success. I've been working with a lot of kids with autism or ADHD or some feeding kids here. Today, ended up from the parents that turns out ask us like, why is my kid never get tired, or why is my kid always busy? So this is something really common to see kids on spectrum or kids with ADHD. That's something we call that they have sensory dysregulation. So first thing, let's talk about sensory regulation. What is sensory regulation? This might be a new word or something that you may or may not heard about, or like I think I know it but it's not familiar. So sensory regulation is kind of like what we feel. So sensory regulations is about our nervous system, how we process the information we get it from our environment. So this is something with our senses here. Beside the five senses we have, sight, vision, smell, taste, hearing, or touch. There's three other senses. So one is our vestibular system. It's about our balance. Another one is called proprioception. It's about our body awareness. And the last one is our interoception. This is about our inner feelings. For example, like feeling that I need to go use the bathroom if I'm get hungry or get thirsty. So sensory regulation is like how we feel about our body. Sensory dysregulation is where we are not able to regulate ourselves, when we feel like we're not able to control our feelings. So for example, we may feel like we're overwhelmed, we are tired, or we're being too excited. So something often we see on kids that they have some meltdowns, or they're being overwhelmed, or they just like hyper, that they just constantly move around. So back to the question here, why is my kids always busy? So there's some two behaviors we talk about in sensory regulation. One is sensory seeking behavior. Another is sensory avoiding behavior. So sensory seeking can understand that our body is constantly seeking for that sensory input. That because our body is under sensitive, we need a lot of input. For example, it's like when we're hungry, we need a lot of food. So it's like kids, their body is craving for a lot of sensory input. So by jumping, running, rocking the chair, like what I'm doing right now, or some kids, they may probably like bump into the wall on purpose, or like want to fight with others like physically, because by doing a lot of that physical movement, they given a lot of sensory input. On the other hand, sensory avoiding behavior is the opposite from sensory seeking behavior. So it's like when we're full, when we got a lot of food, we're full. We don't want any food here because it's gonna make us feel uncomfortable. So same thing for that kind of kid. Hypersensitive. Their nervous system's being too sensitive that they don't want any more sensory input, because when there's more sensory input, they feel very uncomfortable. So you may see kids like very picky, they're very sensitive, they don't want to touch anything. So something we will see very often is with feeding, that some kids, they're very picky with food. They only eat like plain food, like crackers, rice, noodles. They don't like any meat or mixed food with like strong smells or strong flavors, because their body cannot tolerate that much sensory input. Can a kid be both sensory seeking and sensory avoiding? The answer is yes. You can see that kids, while being busy, running around, but also at the same time, they're very sensitive to certain textures. So these two things can happen on the person together. Because think about this, we have 8 senses. So sometimes we may be just oversensitive with just some of the senses, but sometimes we're undersensitive with other senses. And another thing for sensory avoiding, besides than being sensitive to textures, smells, or light, another thing is that you may see kids being incoordinated, or they're afraid of high. They don't want to go up high, don't want to go jump. They just in general just doing something like a quiet task. For example, they just prefer to sit down in the corner playing with the toys instead of go running, go jumping, or do some like physical activities here. Can the environment affect my child? The answer is yes. Sensory regulation is how our brain processes the information we gather from the environment. So environment is always an important key, the big key that affects our sensory regulation. So I want you to think about this. I want you to close your eyes and think about this. So I'm going to give you two scenarios here. So first scenario is that you're at the party, or it can be a party, it can be at a bar, or it can be a concert where there's a lot of things going on. So for example, you're at the party, so the light is bright and there's some lights going on, different colors of lights going on, and then there's like loud music playing, and there's a lot of people around you. People are like chatting, talking, dancing. There's so many things going on in that environment, and there might be some smells for you too. So I want you to think about, in this scenario, how do you feel? How does it make your body feel? You may feel being very excited, you may feel like being very overwhelmed, tired, or nervous. Okay, that's scenario one. Scenario two is the opposite from scenario one. So you're at the cozy place. You can be at the hobby shop, or it can be at home. You're next to the fire where you're sitting down in the couch or sitting on your bed, blanket next to you, and then you may have your coffee or hot chocolate, or even your cat or dog, your pet next to it. So the light is cozy. It might be just a yellow light. It might just be no lights, and then there's no sounds or noise going on in the environment. It may be just quiet, or you may play some like relaxing music. There's not a lot of people around you. There's pretty much nothing around you, just by yourself. So what do you feel? What you may feel with your body? You may feel calm, you may feel cozy, relaxed, comfortable. You feel like you're safe, secure. That's scenario two. But do you see how it is different from scenario one? How the environment change can also affect how we feel. So kids may be more easily than us to be affected by the environment, especially with neurodivergent kids. Their nervous system is built differently from us, and then they're more easily to be affected by the environments here. Now we know the factors that affect our child. How can we change the environment to help our kids regulate better? So the light is a big thing. The bright light and sunlight make us more nervous, make us uncomfortable. So you can consider using the yellow light, or like a yellow light bulb at home, or reduce the lights at home to help your kids regulate better. And then the hearing. So if you have the TV playing all the time, or there's like little kids or other siblings at home, you may want to consider like giving your child a separate room, or turn off the TV when your kid is at home. And smell can be a thing too. Some people will like to use the perfume at home to make the house smells better. Sometimes it can be a trigger for the kids. Another big thing is about the environment, how we set up our room. Sometimes a lot of decorations can be a thing that trigger the kids. So think about this. With our eyes, we actually captures a lot of things every day. So it's like for me, I'm doing the podcast right now. Actually, I'm looking at Brian, but actually there's a lot more things going on to my eyes. There's a prince next to him. There's other stuff. There's some decorations on the wall. There's a light over there. My brain is good at processing, ignoring other information, but just looking at the camera. But for some kids, their brain or their body won't be able to process that well. They may gather all the information to their brain, which means that it's making their brain overloaded. That can be a trigger to dysregulation, where they just have a total meltdown, being overwhelmed for the day, because there's just so much information in their brain, and their brain is overloaded, not able to process a lot of things. So if you notice your kid is very sensitive, or is easily to be overwhelmed in like a loud or crowded environment, can consider like declutter the environment, especially in just their room. You can take out some decorations, take out some stuff, just keep it clean and organized in the room, not a lot of stuff. Sometimes it will help the kids to calm down a little bit. Or something we call calm down corner, where you can put a little bit like a little tent, or make their room as a safe place for them. It can be some like blanket, stuffy, or something that makes them feel like secure, make them feel safe, like some pillows. So for example, when they have a rough day or being a long day outside in school, when they come home, this will be a room for them to calm down, help them regulate. So same thing for us. Sometimes when we go back home, we just want to stay in the car for a couple minutes before we walk into the home, because we may have a long day, we may feel tired. So same thing for the kids here. So that's how we can do to modify the environment to help our kids regulate better. Other advice to help kids with sensory regulation. So if your kids have sensory seeking, you may see that they also want to chew on stuff, what we say about like oral seeking behavior. So when they have this kind of behaviors, we don't want to stop them. So the first thing is we don't want to stop the movement. Don't stop any movement. If their body is craving for something, we want to give them something. We don't want to stop, because this is something they cannot control too. Something like a chewy toy for some oral seeking kid, or like some weighted blanket would be really helpful for kids like who needs that sensory input. Sometimes we may use like a hat or like sunglasses for kids that who are very sensitive to the lights, can kind of help them when they're going outside, kind of like help them to block some noises. Another thing to look at is textures of the clothes. Some kids, they may prefer just certain textures because some textures may bother them. Another thing to keep in mind is that they may be easily to experience mental stress, for example that anxiety, depression, especially from the lot of sensory input from the environment. Another important thing is always give them some time. If there is having some meltdown or having tantrums, it may take longer time for them to recover, to regulate. So at this moment, as a parent, what we do is just help them to create the safe environment and then give them some more time. For example, some kids is being overwhelmed, dysregulated when they're outside. You can kind of like just help them by taking them to a quiet place or away from the stimulations, away from the environment, or kind of give them big jacket to go over their body, to cover from some lights or some noises here. That kind of stuff will kind of help your kid to better regulate it. In short, your kid is constantly looking for sensory input. In the other hand, your kids may experience sensory avoiding behaviors, which is opposite from sensory seeking behavior. So with all the advice included in this video, it will help your kids to better regulate it. Thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, please comment below and share to your friends.